Okay, so typically the Earth experiences 2 high tides per day and 2 low tides per day, roughly separated by about a 6-hour interval. So that's kind of what this page says. The high tides will occur on the side of the Earth facing the moon and on the opposite side. For example, if the first low tide of the day is about 7 a.m., roughly they will happen around 6, 7 a.m., but it changes from day to day. The next high tide, we would expect it to be 1 p.m. And then the next low tide, roughly 7 p.m. So you see 6 hours, 6 hours. Second high tide, 1 a.m. There are sites on the internet which predict the times for low and high tides for any day. One of your website assignment questions, the one that I just talked about, you're going to do the web assignment. One of the questions is going to say, go to this website, and on this particular day, find out when is the low tide, how high is the low tide, and then find out how high is the high tide, and then how many hours separate them. You should find that roughly they are separated by about 6 hours, okay? You see here? So if the moon is there, high tide, low tide, low tide. So if you start here, low tide, what's going to happen? 6 hours later, roughly, you're here, high tide. 12 hours later, you're here, back to low tide, and then 18 hours later, and then 24 hours later, like that, okay? But of course, it's not as easy as that because the Earth and the moon are not stationary. They're moving, and they're going around the sun also, you know. So it's a little bit more complex than that. Okay, let's go back. The last page of the notes talks about spring tides. This has nothing to do with the season spring. That doesn't mean it occurs only in the months of the spring season. It more comes from the word springy, okay? So don't think about the season spring, think about the word spring. It occurs when? Actually, it occurs twice every month, spring tide. It occurs every month twice. When does it occur? During the new moon and the full moon phase. Whenever it's new moon every month and whenever it's a full moon every month, a spring tide is occurring. Okay, why do we call this a spring tide? Let's look at this picture. This is a really good picture. You're going to see what's going to happen. Okay? So look at this one here. So during a full moon phase, the sun is here, the earth is here, the moon is on the other side. During a new moon phase, the only difference is the moon would be here. And the sun and the moon would be here, except in the full moon it's here. But either way, it's the same. If it's new moon or full moon. You see the blue line here, the blue thick line, and the blue line? That's the high tide created by the moon, you see? The gray one here is the high tide created by the sun. Notice that the moon is about twice as thick. Remember, it creates twice the tidal bulge as the sun does. So what's going to happen on that particular day? If you're living here, let's say, the low tide is going to be really low, right? Almost no low tide. And then 6 hours later, the high tide is going to be really high, you see? And then 6 hours later, low is very low. 6 hours later, high is very high. So during any new moon or full moon, during the course of 6 hours, you're going from a very high tide to a very low tide. So if you go to the beach that day, and you stay there like 12 hours or something, you're going to notice a bigger difference than you would any other day. The high tide is going to come, the waves are going to come stronger. The low tide is going to be much more mellower than any other day, you see? Now, while we're in this picture, might as well cover the other one. These ones here are called Neap tides, N-E-A-P. First quarter phase, third quarter phase. First, third. Okay, what happens on that particular day? The blue one is the high tide caused by the moon. The gray one is visualizing the high tide caused by the sun. So on that day, the high tide, which is this, is nowhere near the high tide on this day. You see? It's not as big as the high tide here. How about the low tide? The low tide is nowhere near the low of this one. You see, the low of this one is almost non-existent. You see here? Here, high is not as high as there. Low is not as low as there. So on that day, you will not notice a big difference between high tide and low tide. Picture tells 1,000 words. If you got this picture, you get it, you see. First quarter, third quarter, high is not too high, low is not too low, and then this one is the opposite. So during these two phases, since the sun and the moon are lined up, their tidal forces add up. Therefore, you will get higher than usual high tides and lower than usual low tides. So if you're a surfer or if you like going to the beach and experiencing a lot of waves or Huntington Beach or something, and you only want to go once during the month, go on a full moon day or on a new moon day. That's what this is saying. Go during the full moon when it is a high tide. Roughly about noontime, that's when you're going to have the high tide coming in. You're going to have good surfing that day. Okay? The funny thing is, if you have a friend that doesn't like waves, you could also take him with you on the same day. Okay? They like more calmer waves, right? So take your friend, then go to the beach also during the new moon or full moon phase, except they don't want to go in the water when the high tide is coming. Just wait about 6 hours. When the low tide comes, it will be a calm low tide. So when it is a low tide, sunrise, sunset. So about sunrise or sunset, the low tide will come, and they should be fine. It should be pretty calm. And then the neap tides was the other one, the other picture that was shown. They occur twice every month during the first and third quarter phase. Since the sun and the moon are at perpendicular angles to each other, see, one is like this, one is like that, their tidal forces kind of cancel. Therefore, you will get lower than usual high tide and higher than usual low tide. Therefore, the high is not too high, the low is not too low, as I said before. High is not too high, low is not too low. In other words, you get blend tides. So not too high, not too low. So it's not a good day to go to the beach if you either like waves or don't like waves. The best one is to go to the spring tides. I'm going to show you a picture now. It's an interesting place on Earth where that particular place on Earth experiences the greatest tidal difference between the course of a day on a spring tide. Okay, so this is Bay of Fundy, Nova Scotia. It's in Canada. You see here, so basically it's a very small bay like this, and then it goes in, you go in, and then there is the ship here. And on, see here, it's area enlarged. You see here on the eastern side of Canada. It's known as the Bay of Fundy. During the course of a day, this usually happens on a new moon or full moon when it's a spring tide. The high tide, when the high tide comes, a ship will be in water like this, very high. So a ship can actually sail in and out. On a low tide, look, you see the ground actually. The water has subsided. So in the course of a 6 hour, you have no water, ship is stranded. They got to wait to get out. You see? So it says here, the Bay of Fundy is the site of the world's largest tidal range. Even though the maximum spring tidal range at the mouth of the Bay of Fundy is only 2 meters, amplification of tidal energy causes a maximum tidal range at the northern end of the Minas Basin, 17 meters. So at the mouth of the bay, it's only a 2 meter difference between high and low tide. But by the time you get to the end where the ship is, that energy starts accumulating, and you get a difference of 17 meters between high and low tide. So it's often ships are stranded. Okay, so that's an interesting, that's a really, really extreme case. And then they talk about the high tide and then the low tide, high tide, low tide. This is called ebb and flow. Okay. So ebb is when the current goes out, and then flood current in. You see, so this is out, and then this is in. Okay, so cool. I think with that, we are done with lecture 4. Now we're going to do lecture 5. The topics are going to change quite a bit.